Hello again. Welcome to Dagic, another episode of Will I Put It in My Deck. As always, I'm Jeremy, and I will be your host for this wonderful journey we're taking. Today, we're going to talk about some cards from Modern Horizons 3. Again, we'll get out of them. I know Assassin's Creed cards are being spoiled right now, and I am personally super excited for Bloomburrow. I really want to make a critters deck with one of those critters. But today we're going to talk about some cards that I might consider putting in my Tuvasa the Sunlit deck, or as the name of the deck states, Enbantments. So this deck started out, it was my second deck that I ever built. Right? Started out with like a Voltron theme. Finest Hour was in the deck, which is an extra combat card enchantment for Enbant, which is really cool. It kind of turned into this degenerate stacks thing with stasis and humility, stuff like that. But it is one of my favorite decks to play. I haven't played it a lot recently, and so I've started actually really working on it and trying to update it. Maybe trying, go back to the roots a little bit with Enchanted Evening. There's a lot of sweet synergies there, making all of your stuff enchantments. But this deck is one of my favorites. And there's a couple cards that came out that I might want to try out, at the very least. Or even, it's not pictured here, but even my Sithis Harvest Hand deck, which is also an Enchantress deck. So let's get started. The first card I want to talk about right now is Amphibian Downpour. That is 2 and a blue for an enchantment aura with flash. And here's why it's really good. Storm. This is a Storm enchantment card with flash. It's great. It's incredible with that. Just flash and storm. Whatever else it does, that's great. So this is an enchant creature. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a blue frog creature with base power and toughness 1/1. So there's a lot of enchantment auras like this out there. The blue ones are typically not as good, except for Prison of the Moon. That one's very good. I always compare these cards to Song of the Dryad. Right, Song of the Dryad is 2 and a green. Enchanted creature becomes a forest. It's a forest, so there's no sacrificing it, there's no blocking with it. There's no it dying to board wipes. Excuse me. That's the best one. That's closely followed by the white one and a white. It makes it a 0/1 indestructible bug. And then that one, I think the third best one of those is Kenra's Transformation. Makes it into a 3/3 elk, just because it draws a card. But this card has, again, flash, so instant speed, and storm. So, right, on my turn, floor right is you get one creature. You pseudo remove one creature for 3 mana. That's the same going rate as Song of the Dryads, because Song of the Dryads is in there for commanders, right? That's the thing, is they can't then, their commanders are forest. It didn't leave the battlefield. It's just a forest. So that's the same rate there. But if you're an enchantment deck, so the goal is to cast a bunch of spells in the same turn, draw a bunch of cards, and kind of just turn all your spells into cantrips, right? So this is the third enchantment you're casting, which is entirely possible. You're getting 3 creatures. You're removing 3 creatures from the battlefield, essentially. Maybe you're making them 1/1s. And not only that, but you're having 3 enchantments enter the battlefield. So if you have any kind of constellation effect, Tuvasa, I didn't read Tuvasa when I started here, but Tuvasa is a green, a white, and a blue, a 1/1 Merfolk Shaman. Tuvasa is something that's +1/+1 for each enchantment you control. So that's +3/+3 just for Tuvasa, which that's icing on the cake, but that's not nothing. Right? It's good. And if you have any cards like Archon of Sun's Grace, Citizen Champion, you get 3 of these effects. Any other constellation effect that you're running, you get 3 of those triggers with this card. if you're storming off. And the funniest thing I'm thinking of for me to do is um, responding to opponents like counterspell battle. Right, your opponent casts a spell, another opponent goes to counter it, that same opponent counters their counterspell, and then Magical Christmas Land, maybe a third opponent really wants that original spell to resolve because it helps them too, so they counter the opponent's counterspell to really stop it, and then you're just sitting there and you go Amphibian Downpour and remove 4 or 5 creatures, and just to laugh at them. That's funny to me. So it's good control. It cares if your deck cares about enchantments, ETBing. I've always liked the enchantment removal spells in an enchantment deck. This is a great card for that. It's versatile. It has a high ceiling. The floor is the same rate as a Song of the Dryads. They can block and kill the creature. If it's the commander, right, they'll block, kill it, recast it. So it's not exactly tough there to do. But it's that Flash and Storm just makes it a lot better. And I do like it. I'm probably going to pick it up and just try it out in the deck. Find a spot for it. If I'm casting it every single time just for the one, I'll probably end up taking it out. But if I'm getting 2 and 3 on a regular basis, 2 or 3 copies, or one copy, 1 or 2 copies, so 2 or 3 of this effect when I cast it, I think I'm happy with that. Like 2 is still good. Like, if it's the second spell you cast and getting 2, that's a good rate. 2 creatures for 3 with an enchantment, ETBs, all that cool stuff. So the next card is actually fairly similar. Trickster's Elk. Trickster's Elk is a 2 and a green for a 3/3 elk with Bestow, which is 1 and a green. So you can cast this as an aura for its Bestow cost. And enchanted creature loses all its abilities and is a green elk creature with base power toughness 33. So it's Ken's transformation without the draw, but when that creature does die, you get a 3/3. You get this elk because you control the enchantment. So this is a card that I was actually more thinking about for my Sithis Harvest hand deck. This is an extra removal spell, but it'd be good in the deck. It'd be good in Tuvasa as well. And it's a cool thing that it's not nothing. You get a 3/3. I'd rather draw the card. Like Ken's transformation is still better than this card, even though you're gonna pay for the 2. You're gonna pay the 2. It's always gonna be 2. You're always gonna use it as a removal spell. That then you get a creature with, which is cool. Probably not going to put it in Tuvasa though, just because there's already removal spells in there. I have access to blue, so I have counter spells. But I might find a spot for it in my Sithis Harvest hand deck, which is essentially Tuvasa without the blue. And Sithis Harvest hand is just a green and a white. Whenever you cast an enchantment, draw a card, gain a life. All right. So not much more to say about this particular card here. It's cool. It's good. It has a little bit extra value with the Bestow. I'm glad that they're doing cheaper or as expensive costs for Bestow. The old Bestow cards were always overcosted. The Bestow, what was the one? It was a 1-drop for a 1/1 lifelink, and its Bestow cost was like 5. And I'm overselling it. Maybe it was 4. But still, an enchanted creature got +1/+1 and lifelink for 4 mana. Not great. So this is something that they're doing in this set, which I like, making Bestow good. But yeah, so it's a cheap card to pick up. I'll probably pick it up again. Some of these cards they're uncommon, so they're cheap to pick up. Have them in the arsenal, have them in the collection. Just maybe I'll want it later for another deck, kind of thing. So next card, Shadow of the Second Sun for 4 and 2 blue. Another aura. This is an enchant player, so it's essentially a regular enchantment because you're going to put it on yourself, right? At the beginning of enchanted players' post-combat main phase, there's an additional beginning phase after this phase. The end step happens after the added untap, upkeep, and draw steps. So I saw this card, and if anybody's watched the EDH Retcast episode where they discussed these kind of cards. They brought this one up, and I thought the same thing they did originally, where like, cool. After my this is a free spell. I pay 6 on my first main phase. Go to combat. After combat, I get another beginning phase. At the beginning of Enchanted Player's post-combat main phase. Cool. I get to untap, draw a card, and go to my second main. But there's that wording there at the end of the card after this phase. So at the beginning of Enchanted Player's post-combat main phase, this will trigger saying that there's an additional beginning phase after this phase. So you are in your second main. This triggers. It says after this phase, your second main, there is a second beginning phase. So essentially, it's a bit more of an expensive Wilderness Reclamation, but it draws you a card. So you pay 6, you get Wilderness Reclamation. You have to pay 6. So this is the other thing. You have to pay 6 in your main phase, in your first main phase. You can't go to combat yet. You can't draw into this through your enchantresses. You have to play this your first main to get that untap step. So the more I taught when I first heard this card, I was like, that's cool. It's free. I get to untap and have a second main, essentially an extra turn spell. Not nearly as good as I thought it was. I still kind of like it, you know, and if you're going to go for a lower powered kind of deck. Here's the other thing, right? It doesn't work with stasis. So even if I'm trying to run this with stasis just says skip you on tap step. So even if I get another additional beginning phase, that's giving me an additional untap step, but I'm still skipping it. So it doesn't work. If it worked with stasis, like Seedborn Muse would work with stasis, and that'd be really good. But the problem is it's not an enchantment, and this is an enchantment deck. So it doesn't work with stasis. It's not free. I'm honestly probably not going to put it in the deck. It's on here because when I put this together, I really liked it. Didn't know that it did that thing where it's the actual after your second main phase. But it's neat. It's still neat, I guess. Play it if you want to. The next one is a cool little guy, little insect monk, Spring Heart and then Taku and Tuco. For 1 and a green, so 1/1. It has a bestow, so it's that same deal with the bestow cost is the same or less than the regular cost, so there's no downside to bestowing it. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1. Landfall. So this will be good in a landfall deck as well. It's good in enchantment decks because you have exploration, burgeoning, Dry to the Assyrian Grove. You have all these enchantments that let you play extra lands, right? So whenever a land enters a battlefield under your control, you may pay 1 and a green if Spring Heart and Taco is attached to a creature you control. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature. If you didn't create a token this way, create a 1/1 green insect creature token. So that's cool. You get the creature. You get the 1/1 green insect no matter what from landfall. So you can play this just out and then play 2 lands because you have exploration now and get 2 1/1s, which not great, but in enchantments you don't have a lot of creatures that you really want to block with. So this is you get some chump blockers for like almost for no really investment for 2 mana. It's an enchantment creature, so you drew cards. Hopefully you put out other creatures from Archon of Sun's Grace or Hard Haunting or something like that, and then you get these 2 little insect guys. The ceiling for this card is copying an enchantress, which is really cool. Any enchantress is amazing to copy with this card. You have an enchantress out, you put this sucker on there, you play a land, you pay 2, you make a second enchantress. So that's already cool. I wish you said if it's legendary, it's not legendary, because then I could copy Tuvasa or Sithis. Unfortunately, I can't. Sadness. But like if I'm just imagining Eidolon Blossoms, which is an enchantment itself. So you have Eidolon Blossoms out. You paid 2 for this guy. Put it on Eidolon Blossoms. You draw a card from that. You play your land. You pay 2 to create a copy of Eidolon of Blossoms. Eidolon of Blossoms is a constellation effect, so you'll draw 2 more cards from that. Because Eidolon of Blossoms says when it or another enchantment enters the battlefield. So each Eidolon of Blossoms will see that second one enter and want you to draw a card. So you're drawing 3 cards for 4 mana, and then later on you're doubling up your Enchantress effects. So the ceiling here on this is you put it on Eidolon of Blossoms. That's when you want to put it on. Citizen Champion is cool. It just won't trigger itself when it copies itself because it's a creature, not an enchantment creature. It's still a constellation effect, so it's still amazing. But any Enchantress, like, do I want to copy them? The answer is yes. So I will probably, again, try it in Tuvasa, maybe. I definitely, again, this should have been should have put a little picture of Sithis up there as well. But I'll probably put this one in my Sithis Harvest Hand deck. Because it's cool. It does a unique thing. You don't get to copy. There are enchantments that copy stuff, right, already. So that's the thing. There's the Court of Ventress or Vensuvu, the newer blue court. There's Astrid's Invocation, which is a copy effect. Those copy only enchantments, I think. I know the Astrid's Invocation does. I'm not sure about the court. And this one's aggressively costed for 2 mana. I mean, it's all 2s. Yes, you have to pay 4 mana the first time to have the effect and have a landfall still, but I mean, it's still good. And your opponents are going to target your enchantresses. If you're running an enchantress deck and your opponents aren't killing your enchantresses, you're gonna win that game because they're making bad decisions already. But the cool thing about this is it's bestow. So they kill your enchantress. If you didn't get it off in time, you didn't get to pay the 2 mana to copy it, you still have this guy who's gonna make insects for you. So you're not, it's not all bad there. So yes for Springheart and Taku, not in Tuvasa, but in Sithis. No for Shadow of the Second Sun because it's sad. It's sadness of the sadness sad. But it's still cool, I guess. It's just I really wanted that second main phase for free. Trickster Elk is cool. I like it. I like the design. I like the efficiency of it. It'd be good in any Enchantress deck. So yes. Amphibian Downpour, want to try it. It's cool. It's unique. Storm is always good, and it has flash. So you can really mess with your opponents when they're doing crazy stuff themselves. So yes for that. So that's this episode of Will I Put It in My Deck? Thank you for joining us today. Remember to do this stuff. Remember to like and subscribe. Comment on any other decks you think any of these cards would go in, or that you would want to run them in your own decks, or any cards you think should be in a Tuvasa deck, even, that I haven't thought about. So join us next time, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.